And once again, it's great to welcome Steve Bone to Pompey Sound on air and available as a podcast. Loads to talk about, even more than usual today, Steve. Shall we begin with your take on the West Brom draw?
Yes, I was encouraged by it, actually. As you know, it was a rare case last week of me predicting a defeat. I couldn't see us getting anything at West Brom. I thought we were going to come away from there empty-handed, and we went one down, didn't we? And I thought, here we go. Let's hope we don't go 2 and 3 down as we did last season. And came back really strongly and scored a fantastic goal, wasn't it? What a cross and what a header for the goal. And with good value for that, I think. Had a little bit of luck with a couple of decisions after that. You know, Paul was very lucky not to be done for pulling his man back. I thought the Ogilvie tackle in the area, I thought he did just get the ball away from the defender before there was any contact, so I didn't think that was a penalty. And yeah, right through the season, if you say to me, would you take a 1-1 draw from this next away game? Most weeks I'm going to say yes, because away from home in the Championship, very difficult games. So yeah, encouraged by that, and it gives you 4 points from 3. A 1 win, 1 draw, 1 defeat is not too bad, is it? It's fair to middling.
Now, Callum Lang turns out to be unavailable for 8 to 12 weeks rather than the original 4 to 8 weeks that we were at first told. How big a blow is that, and do you think it means that we really do have to invest in somebody else wide right?
Big blow. And you can see the logic to him having surgery rather than letting it heal, because what we're told about that is that it gives you a better chance of the injury not recurring. And if that turns out to be the case, then that's great for him and great for us. You know, if you've got a fit player at the end of it who's not going to do his hamstring a couple of times a year, you're going to be happy with that, aren't you? But he was a big part of last season. Well, he was a big part of the promotion season, big part of last season. He was set to be a big part of this season, and I do think I do hope that we're looking to replace him. But I mean, maybe with somebody on a half-season loan or something, because he is going to be back. But I do think you need that sort of quality, that Championship quality in that area. There's been a bit of confusion really about whether Lang, what Lang's best position is seen as, what Segicic's best position is seen as. But you're now left with a situation where you kind of feel you need Segicic as in the centre as the number 10 with no Lang there, and that leaves you short on the right hand side, doesn't it? You know, you could previously have interchanged those two between those two positions if you didn't bring in anybody else to replace Matt Ritchie, who I'm sure we'll go on to talk about in a minute. I just think we need to bring somebody else. You know, we've got others. You got Bianchini around. You got Yang. You got others who can play on that side. But I do think we need to. I think it's a bit of a gamble if we don't bring in anybody else for that kind of position before the window shuts next week. It's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, neither of those two names that you just mentioned feel like starting 11 players, do they? They'd be handy substitutes to come on, but we really need somebody that we can start with, which of course is the case with Lang and Segicic as well, but we're down to one of those two.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. I think either Bianchini or Yang may well turn out to be, they may get into the team and stay there. They may be stars of the season. We don't know. But I don't think we've seen enough of them so far to judge reasonably well that will be the case. So I'm sure the manager is aware of where his strengths and weaknesses are going into these final few days. Well, we've got about 5 days left before the window shuts. 7 p.m. Monday, I think it is. So he'll be aware of that, and I'm sure he's looking, and I'm sure Richard Hughes is looking, and I'm sure they are looking. But time not on our side now, is it? It's getting you're getting a little bit desperate. You don't want to bring in the wrong player or the wrong type of player. But hopefully there's something going on under the water that we can't see behind the scenes, and something happens there. I do wonder, it's easy with hindsight, isn't it? But had we known that Lang was going to be missing, for a good chunk of the first half of the season, would the club's view of Ritchie been different? Would they have been able to say to him, "Yeah, we see you as a regular starter"? Maybe not. Maybe it is that the manager made his decision a long time ago that Ritchie he didn't think would be a regular starter. He's said a few things, hasn't he? I don't know if you've seen it here and there about the way that they're playing this season, and it seems like he wants to adopt a bit of a different style, and maybe that means a different formation, different shape as well, and maybe that is in his thinking as well, in terms of who he wanted to keep, who he didn't want to keep, and who he now needs to bring in as well. There's a lot of different factors going on there, isn't there?
There is. Versatility seems to be an important credential as far as Messino is concerned, and we've been messing around with the idea that he's drifting towards some sort of, not formation really, but using players who have the ability to change position during the course of a game if the other side's tactics merit that. And we did a bit of research ourselves and came up with a fascinating tidbit, which is this, and I know you haven't come across this, so I'm giving it you blind. Here we go. 2019 in February, Oxford played Peterborough. Playing central midfield for Oxford was John Messino, and playing left back, and he started at left back, was our new boy Josh Wright, who now we see lists himself as a centre back, a left back, and a central midfield player. So Messino has experience himself of being able to be picked to play in one of many different positions, and it looks as though Wright is the same. And we are, it seems to us, looking for players who can play in several positions. Any thoughts?
Well, it does seem to be the way with the modern game. More and more, there are more what we used to call utility players about, aren't there?
Yeah.
Players who were equally at home in 2 or 3 different positions, whereas in the old days, a squad used to maybe have one utility player. In the Pompey team of the 1980s, Mick Tate played in every position apart from in goal. I don't think he ever quite got in goal, but he played at right back, left back, centre back, central midfield, and centre forward, and he was equally good in all of them. These days, there do seem to be more players around. Maybe it's the way that young players are brought through and developed. Maybe they're coached to be competent in at least 2 different positions. That makes them a little bit more useful, doesn't it? And it therefore means that clubs are going to be more likely to look at them. If a club needs to bring, as Pompey do at the moment, if a club needs to bring in a player who's pretty good in 2 different positions, maybe a number 10 and a right winger, then if they can find one player that is good at both, then they're going to go for them. It's common sense, really. That's interesting about our new defender,
Josh Knight.
Josh Knight. Didn't realise he could play on the. Did you say he could play on the left? He's played at left back, has he?
He used to start for Peterborough at left back.
Yeah, didn't realise that. That's good cover then, isn't it? Because you've got Conor Ogilvie. Ogilvie himself is somebody who can play at left back or in the middle, or could possibly play a bit further forward. So if you've got another option at left back, obviously we've got Jacob Farrell wanting to get in the team and prove himself and stay there as well in that position. Because I think when Knight was brought in, when Josh Knight was signed, everybody just thought, right, another centre half. How's he going to fit in the team? Is he going to come in place of Paul or Shaughnessy? Is he ahead of Matthews in the pecking order? But perhaps there's a bit more to that signing than meets the eye. Then perhaps he's thinking, well, there's a player that could fill 2 or 3 different positions. I imagine we might see him on the bench possibly on Saturday, mightn't we? Don't think he'll start. It might start. It might surprise us and start him. I think he'll probably more likely to be on the bench. Be interesting to see what he can do and get our first glimpse of him. But yeah, utility players, if that's what they're still called, and I'm sure there's a fancy new name for them now. It does seem to be the way ahead, and the manager seems to like them. So yeah, let's get a couple more in the door.
Yeah, back in the day when there was just one substitute, that substitute was usually the team's utility player, wasn't he?
Right, yeah. Well, and Mick Tate, who I've talked about, often was the sub, and that was handy because if your left back got a knock, he could come on straight in place of him. If your right winger got a knock, he could come on there. Um, yeah, perhaps they missed out a little bit, those players, in that, despite having that talent, they weren't seen as a regular starter in the same spot quite so often.
Now, I've been looking forward to asking you this ever since we got the news confirming that Matt Ritchie is on his way. Can you give us all of your thoughts on the last few days of this and the Ritchie experience at Fratton Park this time round?
Yeah, I still think we haven't heard the full story. That's my overriding feeling. I just feel like it just doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't add up to me, because you look at how well he did last season. He was a big part of particularly our home form. You look at the way that we pressed teams at home last season, and on some occasions forced them into mistakes and scored goals through it. He was the orchestrator of that pressing game at home. And I think, he may not have scored many goals, he may not have assisted many goals. I've seen some people say, "Oh well, he's no loss because his assists and goals wasn't very good last season." I don't think you can judge him just on that. I think you look at the part he played in after a slow start. Admittedly, it was a very slow start, and he made a couple of mistakes that led to goals for the opposition, and he didn't look particularly sharp. But when he then came into that team in November and pretty much stayed there, I thought he made a big difference. Now, something has happened later in the season or at the end of the season to make priorities change, and we don't fully know whether it is the manager going to him and saying, "Thanks, Matt, great season. Don't really think you'll be part of things next season, so you might want to look around for another club." We don't know if the boot was on the other foot, and did Ritchie go to the manager and say, "I think I've done well for you this season. I want to guarantee that I'm going to play 35, 40 games next season." And the manager said, "No, can't give you that guarantee." Or has something else gone on? I just don't. It seems to me that it's still the case at the moment that the best thing for all parties would be if Matt Ritchie was still a Pompey player and was still in our squad and had done pre-season with us and had played some friendlies and was available to us. But he's not. He's gone. I did sort of cling to the hope most of the summer that things might change and he might stay. But he's gone. Good luck to Reading. Reading have now got Matt Ritchie, Paddy Lane, and Mark O'Mahony, I think, in their squad. So that's three players that we'll keep an eye on. But I still think, as things stand, we might regret it a little bit.
I do remember breaking the news to you that Matt Ritchie was one of the 5 players who were not going to be retained, and your reaction I remember very clearly, along with a couple of other Pompey Sound correspondents who we told, that you weren't surprised by the first 4. It made sense all round, and you could have predicted that. But you were quite aghast that Ritchie was one of those 5.
Yeah, I was, just because of the influence that he had on things last season, the growing influence. From the start of the season, you look at from the start of the season to the end, it was a. If you looked at the graph of Ritchie's influence, it was a steady upward curve, wasn't it? And particularly in some of those, like I say, some of those home wins, which were the difference between us staying up and going down, he was an absolutely key man. So I didn't quite understand it then, when you told me that he was possibly going to be on his way, and I don't know that I understand it now, really. But maybe now that Ritchie has gone, he might say a bit more about what the chronology of it all was, what the conversations were with the manager, what the manager told him, what he told the manager. Because while he was still here, that was never going to happen, was it? We were never really going to hear much from him while he was still contracted to Pompey, but we might hear a bit more about it now.
There are people calling Adrian Segacic the Duracell Bunny. I'm not sure whether he'd like that nickname, but anyway, he's in a sense the Duracell Bunny Mark II, isn't he? Because if anybody was a Duracell bunny that never ran out of steam, it was Matt Ritchie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just seemed to have as much energy in injury time as he'd had at the start of the game, didn't he? I mean, that's an interesting point about Segicic. I haven't seen a lot of him yet. So if he's got that same energy and sort of never give up mentality, chase everything, even if it seems to be a lost cause, keep running till the final whistle, then that could be a big factor in sort of making up for the loss of Ritchie in the team. He does. I mean, certainly Segicic looks to be our best signing of the summer so far, doesn't he? Of those we've seen, we've seen some more than others, but he looks a quality signing. I hope he is able to play in his best position, whether that is number 10 or wide. I don't think we fully know yet. But yeah, it's quite an exciting prospect to have him. But I just think we need if we can find another signing of that sort of quality that we maybe haven't seen yet, then we'll be well away.
It's about balance, isn't it? The left side of the Pompey team seems to pick itself. The right side, there's plenty of headaches for the selection process.
Yes, we've got the right back conundrum for starters, haven't you? We don't seem to be quite settled yet on whether Williams should be first choice, Swanson, Devlin waiting for his chance as well, haven't you? Everyone's got a different opinion about which of those three should be the first choice starter, and we've seen two of them start games so far. Maybe the manager's happy with that. Maybe he's happy not to have a first choice, but just to use the three, different players in different situations. But you like we've got with Ogilvie and Murphy down the left. You kind of want a relationship to build there, don't you, down that right, between the right back and the right winger, whoever that's going to be. Didn't really see it. Saw it at times last season with Swanson and Ritchie. I think that started to show down that side of the pitch. But yeah, both places are kind of up for grabs at the moment, aren't they? So you just want two players to make it very difficult for the manager to drop them down that side, and we'll be in a good position if that happens.
Yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on your preferred right back. Or is there a solution here, which is that it's horses for courses? We pick the right back who is best suited to what we think the opposition are going to do down their left flank.
Yeah, I think that's a good, fair point. I do think there are... I think the manager sees different qualities in Williams, Swanson and Devlin, and it looks like he is just going to pick the one each game who he thinks is best for that game. I tend to think that if you're looking for a more solid defender, then Williams is the one. If you're looking for someone who's got the sort of all over the pitch energy and will go up and down, like Ritchie did a little bit, and like we're saying Segicic, then I think Devlin is the one. But equally, Swanson, has shown at times has shown himself to be a very good defender, and at times has shown himself to be very good getting forward. Little injury question marks over Swanson. Much better last season, wasn't he, than the season before? I don't think he was out injured for too many games, if any. Can't remember now. So it's nice to have three to choose from rather than just two. But again, you do sometimes think a team benefits through being settled, and would the rest of the defence be more settled if they had the same number two over there every game? We'll have to see over the next few games who gets the nod.
On the versatility thing, one of the positions that you really can't double up with is striker, and the other one is centre half. And yet, when he was restricted in his movement, Hayden Matthews was sent up to be the main target man. So it's obviously something that has been discussed that he can do. And I do remember going back a long way when the Pompey legend Steve Foster was converted from being a number 9, and apparently he was a pretty good striker, into being a central defender, which is where he really made his name, playing several times for England. So I just wonder if we sadly lost Colby Bishop for a couple of games for whatever reason and decided that Waddingham didn't quite have it to start. What do you think? Matthews up front?
Matthews up front. That's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't know what Hayden Matthews would think of that for starters, but I mean, in a way, a centre forward needs many of the same qualities that a centre half needs. You know, you need to be big and strong. You need to be good in the air. You need to have a real presence about you, don't you? In both boxes. So you need to be there and making a difference when your team has got a corner or a free kick that's going to come in. And you need to be the same when you're defending the same situations. So there are similarities between the two jobs, but there aren't many players down the years that have done both. I do remember when we got into the First Division in 87, 88, we were very short of centre halves. We had an injury crisis, and Paul Mariner, England striker, no less than ex-Ipswich striker, who won the European competition with Ipswich, didn't he, in that team? He was used as an emergency centre half for a couple of games. I don't think it went terribly well, from what I remember. So there's a precedent for it. Matthews up front. Well, if it happens, I'll remember where I heard it first.
Listen, let's move on quick. Talking about strikers needing to be good in the air, what did you make of the fact that Colby Bishop got a little bit of stick in a couple of places for not celebrating his incredible header? It was a fantastic goal against West Brom with greater enthusiasm, until it turned out that he was so badly injured from this whack on the glutes, which we used to call the bum, but now it's the glute, that he could hardly walk.
He could hardly walk, I know, which makes you think, how did he get up for that header and meet it so brilliantly?
Exactly.
That he needed for that, which was, maybe he was putting all his energies into being able to move for the balls that he needed to move for, and not leaving himself with any energy for anything else. I do think it's funny if people were saying why didn't Bishop celebrate a bit more. Some people will have a go at Colby Bishop for anything, won't they? It's not so long ago people were saying, "Oh, he's not. We need somebody else instead of Colby Bishop. He's not." And you still hear it now. People are saying, "Oh, I don't think Bishop's quite up to it." You look at his goals. Isn't he joint top Pompey scorer for the 21st century? I think his goals to games to goal ratio is better than a lot of the other strikers that have done the job for us. He comes back, doesn't he? Particularly last season when he had his heart surgery and was back in the team within about 3 months. Whenever there's an injury doubt over him, he never seems to be out for as long as we fear. Just keeps coming back, keeps scoring goals, keeps silencing the critics, and yet the critics still keep on about him. But maybe if all they've got to criticise now is he doesn't celebrate his goals wildly enough, then that's probably a sign that he's doing something right, isn't it?
Well, footballers like disparaging each other with humour. It's a camaraderie thing, isn't it? In that World Cup yonks ago, when Gordon Banks, the England goalkeeper, made a miraculous save from a Pelé header, he got right across the goal and pushed it round the posts. And Alan Mullery, the England midfielder and Spurs captain, ran up to him and said something whilst Banks was getting up off the ground. And when asked afterwards what he'd said, he said, Alan Mullery, "I said to Gordon, why didn't you catch it?"
Yeah, they do like taking each other down a peg or two, don't they?
Yeah, and if it's done with humour, then it can be good for the spirit.
Well, again, good bit of dressing room banter and so on, isn't it? It's keeps them on their toes, I should think.
Now, speaking of good banter, how's things with the Pompey programme? You write an excellent column in it every fortnight or every 10 minutes. Now that we've got so many games, do you ever run out of ideas?
Well, they tend to come. You either have to do 3 in a fortnight and then nothing for the next 5 weeks or so, and the way the fixtures pan out. Yes, I'm back in there this season, as some eagle-eyed fans, if they buy the programme, might have seen. I do run out of ideas sometimes. Last season I had a theme going in which we looked back at Pompey's 21 most recent, what I call second division seasons. That was to celebrate us being back in the Championship, and that was good. I was asking for people's memories of seasons in the second division from 1983 right through to present. So what I've started this season with is, so the column is called View from the North Stand, for those who don't know, and what we're doing to start the season is View from the North Stand's greatest hits, because everybody does their greatest hits now. I think that's what you call a repeat these days. You call it a greatest hit. It doesn't sound so much like a repeat. So I'm bringing up some old subjects that have sparked plenty of response before, and hopefully they will again, and one already has actually. So we're kicking off this Saturday in the PRESTON programme with people's tales of bumping into Pompey players in non-football settings. So we're talking shops, restaurants, retail parks, things like that. And it's always fascinated me. It's something that Danny Baker used to do on his football phone-ins years ago, and it's almost like the more obscure they are, the better. So that there's a range of them included in this week's column, but I've had so many actually that I'm probably going to do a second column. So I think our next home game is Sheffield Wednesday in about 3 weeks' time. So there'll be more of them in that. If you bump into Peter Crouch in the M&S food hall, it just seems weird, doesn't it? You kind of think he shouldn't be in there. I should only ever see him on a football pitch or on the telly playing football, and it kind of makes you realise that footballers have normal lives and they have to go down the shops. But I've got some other subjects coming up too that I will plug on here if that's okay, and I'll be putting them on Twitter and Blue Sky and in the programme. I always like to hear about people's match day superstitions, because everybody's got a superstition. Which street do they have to avoid on the way to the ground, and so on and so forth. What do they have to eat for their breakfast on the morning of a game? Those are always good. I'm after people's stories about celebrities they have seen or met either at Pompey games or on the way to or from Pompey games. That always throws up some good answers. And I'm probably going to do tenuous links to Pompey players that you've had, and that's quite open-ended. But my favourite one of that, last time we did that a couple of years ago, was somebody who looked after Luke Nightingale's goldfish for a week when he was on holiday.
Get out!
I just love it's the minutiae of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's the mundane and the everyday things that show. As I say, these are footballers are people that live in our towns and cities and go to the shops and go to the local cafe and need things delivered to them. There is mention in this Saturday's programme of the Pompey fan who had a Christmas turkey delivered by Dave Thomas, ex-Pompey and Everton and England winger as well, which is quite a strange one, which I think I might have had before in the column. But like I say, a few repeats. If the BBC can do repeats, why can't we?
Absolutely.
So do read the programme if you can. It's printed programmes, a little bit of a dying breed, but Pompey still do a good one. And hopefully a few people will buy it, and a few of those few that do will read the column.
Brilliant. I do remember Mick Robertson telling me that he went to Glastonbury and he was trying to not think about Portsmouth FC for 3 or 4 days just to give himself a break. And he turned the corner around one of the hundreds of thousands of tents that there are at Glastonbury and walked straight into Peter Crouch.
That's funny, because I'd use Peter Crouch as an example, and Peter Crouch does crop up in the column I think on Saturday. I suppose the thing with Peter Crouch is, if he's anywhere near you, you're going to see him, aren't you? Yeah. Towering above everybody else, you can't miss him. Yeah. So he gets around, old Crouchy. We like him.
Does my effort count? I once saw Peter Reid, the ex-England midfield player and Everton stalwart. I saw him at Fratton Park on 3 entirely separate occasions. We just bumped into each other out of 18,000 people. And I got on his nerves because I constantly said to him, "Why didn't you close Maradona down?"
I'm sure he's probably had that for the past 39 years.
Good.
Hasn't he? People asking him that. Yeah. Did he answer it? Did he explain why? Or probably not. He probably sort of rolled his eyes and moved on, didn't he?
Yeah, the first time he thought it was a rhetorical question. The second time he said, "Oh, it's you again." And the third time we were creeping along the dual carriageway trying to get off the island at about 5:45. And we were literally alongside him. So I wound down my window and he looked and he just rolled his eyes and he mouthed something. I know what it was. Okay, so it stays in my mind.
It does, yeah. They're all good encounters, aren't they?
They are, and I'm looking forward to superstitions as well.
Yes, like I say, everybody's got one. If you haven't got a superstition, you're not a football fan.
That's right. Your thoughts for Preston?
Yes. They've started well, haven't they, Preston?
Really
They've
well.
already beaten Ipswich and Leicester at home. Got a draw at QPR in their only away games so far. So I think it's going to be very difficult. I think they've started the season better than most thought they would. Look as though they might have a better season than last year when they were a bit too near the bottom for their own liking. But we need to kickstart our little home run again after a full start against Norwich, and I'm going to go for a win, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and I'm going to go for Colby to get one of those goals.
Excellent, Steve. That's neat and tidy, and thank you very much indeed for absolutely everything. Your wisdom and your humour and your trivia are absolutely paramount. Well done.
It's a pleasure, thank you.